Just last night, there was a public hearing in my community hosted by DEEP regarding Sunrise State Park. This park is the ultimate example of what happens to the state parks and communities like mine when staff resources at DEEP are stretched to the breaking point. For over 7 years, this property and 86 buildings on site were essentially abandoned because of lack of resources. Subsequently, my community faced the consequences of this action: arson, outrageous forms of vandalism, illegal activity, including drug and alcohol consumption on site, trespassing, and theft became the hallmarks of this once thriving resort turned state park. Fortunately, last year, bonding money was set aside for the unfortunate but necessary demolition of all but 3 historic buildings. The park, thankfully, is now almost completely safe for my constituents to enjoy once again. My constituents are concerned that just because it is clean today does not mean it will stay that way. One person asked when we discussed an upcoming community cleanup day for next month, what promises do I have that if I spend my time there cleaning it up, that the site will be maintained? And that is a good question, and the answer will hinge on the funding for adequate staff at DEEP. We are lucky that we have a few dedicated individuals who are willing to form a Friends of Sunrise State Park to keep advocating for this property. The continuing reality is that without Friends groups' support across the state, our park system deficiencies would be very visible and very glaring. My district, which encompasses East Haddam, East Hampton, and a part of Colchester, is one of the most picturesque in the state. It is home to almost a dozen state parks and state forests. As the former president of the Friends of Gillette Castle State Park, I know firsthand what the staff based at Gillette Castle is faced with as they try to maintain these wonderful assets. They are not only responsible for Gillette Castle, but for numerous other state parks in my district. I appreciate their hard work, but I recognize that many more man-hours are needed. As a member of the Appropriations Committee, I took part in discussions regarding finding new ways to support these critical assets. We spoke about license plate fees, parking fees, expanded concessions agreements, corporate sponsors, special event fees, basically everything but the kitchen sink. As an avid user of the state park system myself, I see firsthand how this lack of funding is putting our users at risk. For example, on the Airline Trail Linear Park, there is a portion near the Jeremy River which has washed away. I watched with a mother's fear in my eyes as my own son lost control of his bike and crashed. We have trails at Devil's Hop Yard which are not blazed clearly, confusing for hikers. At Day Pond State Park, our handicap access is run over with lily pads, causing those who want to fish to use an area that is unsafe for their wheelchair that they are currently using. In Macamuta State Park, we have had a rash of break-ins in our parking lots. At Salmon River State Forest, there's a building which could be utilized for rentals, but it has been closed now for years because of the condition of the kitchen and the bathroom. Comstock Bridge just went through a beautiful upgrade, but the new plantings that were installed there are covered with weeds and are completely overgrown. Outside my district at both Hammonasset and Rocky Neck State Park, which are campgrounds I have personally used every year for the last 12 years, there are bathrooms that are unsanitary, litter left all over our beaches, and lifeguards who can only patrol one small area while leaving another one unsafe. Something must change. I look forward to being part of that solution. I look forward to being part of that dialogue, and I thank you for your time today.
Thank you for reminding us that a lot of the areas are not up to where we would like them to be. And you're on the Sportsman's Caucus also, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, I brought in a legislative research study that looked at the medallion system.
I do remember.
And the states that use a medallion system to attach to the license plates seem to have a more stable funding mechanism. And once the medallion is on the car itself can enter the park with however many people are in it. So we could look at that as a possible solution to stabilizing our revenues for the park system.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really do think it's probably an all-of-the-above solution. I don't think there's going to be one solution that kind of fixes all of our problems, but I do remember that proposal, and we actually discussed it in the Appropriations Committee when we were talking about individual departments, and you know, there was also a lot of other discussion at that level, and I'm willing to keep looking for those alternatives, and I think looking at other states and what they do to find a sustainable revenue is critical. You know, I feel bad for the staff at DEEP in my district. I worked very closely with them when I was president of the Friends Group, because a lot of people just assume that, you know, that it's being neglected because it's not on their radar screen, and that couldn't be further from the truth. DEEP is certainly aware of some of these issues. They just don't have the funding. I remember when we were looking at summer help, I was so concerned because I thought for sure we weren't going to have enough summer help to get us through some of those critical times. So I'm not sure what the solution is. I hope I can continue to help be part of the discussion and look for other ways and throw the kitchen sink at it, so to speak.
Okay, well, that's what this committee does. We look at everything very carefully, do comparisons, and try to recommend common sense ways to fix the problem. So, and if you find other states that you think are functioning well on their park system, you know, feed it to our research staff. And I personally am also interested in better coverage for prevention of drownings. They're too frequent, in my opinion, and I think we can do a better job at either policing the areas or restricting the areas so that we don't have accidental drownings from ill-prepared, usually it's teenagers, but people that aren't able to swim as far as they think they can. So I personally would like to get a better handle on that too. As well as the decrepit buildings, I think protecting the public is also needs to be elevated. But thank you for coming in and reminding us there's a lot of work to be done. And Senator Kissel has a question for you.
Great.
No, I just want to commend you on your advocacy, and certainly, you know, the deputy commissioner and director are here, so they heard everything that you stated. A year ago, I volunteered for a day at an animal rescue shelter farm called Ray of Light. Is that down here?
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's a wonderful nonprofit facility just down the road, actually, from my home, and it's just an unbelievable resource. I think I spoke to Representative Urban about that facility in the last session.
Yeah, that was an incredible day when I volunteered there, and if you live close to there, that whole area of the world is beautiful.
It is.
It's really very, very nice. And the point I want to stress is, even though you're not on program review and investigations, you can help us carry the recommendations going forward into the next legislative session, whether they're internal recommendations for changes within the department that they can do through their own internal changes and regulations, or whether it's legislation or advocacy before the Appropriations Committee, all of those things. So we're going to make you an honorary member of this committee going forward as far as this study goes, because, you know, there's plenty of credit that can go around, but the more folks that we have advocating, the better. And again, thank you for taking the time this afternoon to come and testify.
Thank you very much. And I just, for the record and for the people watching, if there's any dedicated servants out there watching from home, I want to be very clear that the Deputy Commissioner and Director, Tyler, have been amazing to my community. And it's, again, it's not for a lack of trying on their behalf. It's not for a lack of effort. It's simply a lack of funding. They don't have the man hours. When I go to Gillette Castle, you know, if it wasn't for our Friends group, we would not have some things there at Gillette Castle. I mean, we've in the previous presidency redid the whole train and donated that to the Visitors Center. When I was at the helm, we had helped create a new interactive experience where there's a wonderful movie now when you walk into that visitors room and you get to see the history and actually a film of William Gillette riding his train at high speeds through the woods. And if it wasn't for the Friends groups coming in and stepping up, I think it would be incredibly worse. So I just want to be clear, it's not from a lack of the staff at DEEP in recognizing these issues. They are very aware of these issues. It's just a lack of funding. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and we will be working to fix that problem.